Okay, I'm pulling out my.
Don't you still have that dagger? What about that one sword you had?
How
How about that one axe of ogre destruction? Is this it, or is that the other axe of ogre destruction?
God, this just.
Well, what about that +7 sword of dragon slaying?
This is wearing me out. I don't know if I can carry all this.
Encumbrance, people. Encumbrance.
Thank you for watching Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
And in this episode, Encumbrance. Welcome to Wizards of the Tower.
Roleplay.
In this episode, Encumbrance.
Yeah. Carrying too much during the game.
So, I have an anecdote. There was a game that I was running when not long after 3rd edition came out. And this young gentleman wanted to join our game, and we were at a gaming store. And he walks in and he starts playing, and he said something along the lines of, yeah, I'm carrying, I've got all the sword here and the sword here and the sword here. And I'm like, wait a minute, stop. How are you carrying all this? Well, I can carry it all. It's like, no, you can't. And basically, we laughed him out of the game, and he left. But it made me get into encumbrance more into my games.
Yeah.
At that point, I really hadn't been a stickler for encumbrance. But right then and there, I'm like, no. Here's someone trying to carry 10 swords and a couple of axes and a spear and 4 bows and 300 arrows and plus all their gear. And it's like, wait a minute. You're not the complete adventurer here.
Yeah.
Which is an old miniature and an old joke,
Yeah, the giant chest on their back as they're walking.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
You can see that in that first film. Which one is it by that first movie that they show them walking down the corridor and you have the guy with the big giant chest?
Oh, yes. Darkness Rising,
Darkness
the Gamers.
Rise, yeah, the Gamers.
The Gamers was
you
the first one.
You can see that in there where he's walking along, he's got the big giant chest on his back. So that's the complete adventure. He's got everything they need in that chest.
Yeah, you have your follower who carries everything. I think there was even in one of the first edition books or magazine of the dragon that had a picture of that, and there was a miniature of the complete adventure, and he's carrying it. He's got a keg, and he's got a chest, and he's got all these swords and weapons and lanterns and torches and and everything else. And in my games, I really push encumbrance.
Yeah.
Because I hate it when somebody says, yeah, I've got 10,000 gold pieces, and I'm carrying them right here on me, and I've got my 4 swords, and my 2 bows, and my crossbow, and my spear, and there's this chest, and this. I'm like, how are you carrying all this? You've got, a 16 strength?
Yeah. We figured out one time that money, like especially gold and silver, weighs a tremendous amount.
Yes.
And we figured out that, I think we had a character in one of our games that had several thousand gold coins, and it ended up weighing like 300 pounds. And we're like, all right, you're carrying 300 pounds of gold coins in addition to a full set of armor and, several weapons, a pack full of food, water, a keg of wine, all this stuff. And we're going to have to start talking about realistic encumbrance here, because if you're still zipping across the landscape with a 40 move speed, I'm calling no on that.
Yeah.
You're dragging yourself at a 10 movement across a landscape overloaded.
Yeah, we all know that our in the military a lot of times they're carrying 50, 60, 70 pounds of gear on them, but it's in a modern pack and it's distributed well, and they're not ducking underneath small holes and jumping over 10-foot walls and everything else. Yeah, they might be running and moving, but that's still a lot of gear to be carrying.
I think a lot of times what I've read about is like a modern soldier has like 80 to 90 pounds of gear in their ruck.
Yeah.
Which you're talking ammunition, weapons,
sleeping,
different sorts of survival gear, extra ammo, any kind of explosives on them, spare this or that.
Lights, flashlights.
Yeah, plus various sorts of military gear that they might have, and the actual pack itself, and things like that, maybe body armor, that sort of thing. So that's a lot to carry. I mean, I think the heaviest backpack I've ever carried is like 60-some pounds. And as a young buck running through the woods of Colorado, I got to tell you, that just about killed me. But yeah, you can do it, but it's hard over any length of time. So even if you talk about the medieval world where you had really strong, powerfully built people, they still had pack horses, and they had servants to carry their stuff for them. Yeah. Typically, they carried just what they could carry, and that was it.
Yeah, you didn't see a knight going into battle wearing a full suit of armor and 10 swords, and they might have they probably have their rondel or their dagger.
Yeah,
they
their
probably
main
have
weapons,
their main
shield.
weapon, maybe a secondary weapon, and probably their lance or spear.
Yeah. Well, think about what we've seen is like a medieval foot knight. Okay, not someone on a horse with a big giant lance. A medieval foot knight who's essentially a knight on foot. They're clad in a realistic, a partially armored, maybe a cuirass, a back plate, maybe some tassets, maybe a few, maybe an armored boot, or maybe some gloves. They've got a helmet. What are they carrying? They may have a sword belted. They may have an axe shoved through their belt, maybe a dagger, and they've got maybe a pole arm. Okay, or they may have a shield. All right, now they're at the limit of what they can actually fight with, even though they're made and they're trained to fight with that weaponry. They're at the limit of what they can move with.
Yeah. Now, even a Roman traveling as long as he did, he had his sword, his gladius, and he had usually his phylums, and he's got a couple of those. He's got his shield, and he's got his armor, and he's got his pack that he needed.
Yeah.
But they still had stuff being carried for them. They did have their shovel and their hammers that they needed for when they stopped at the night. But when they went into battle, they usually weren't carrying all that on them.
Now you would probably drop your packs to gather what you need to fight with, so that you could fight, so that you could be better at fighting. Encumbrance levels should, in my opinion, this is just me, should be taken into account. Now, the D&D world, typically they overstrength your characters. I think there's some of them can carry 300 pounds or something like that. 300 pounds is a lot of weight for a character to carry. Yeah. But the thing is, if you realistically did it to where your limit was 100 pounds, you could almost carry nothing. A sword, leather armor, some food. That's it. You're at the limit right there. So they boost it up a little bit so you can carry more. All right. Okay, so that's the case. Now, the thing is a lot of characters like to abuse that by trying to bulk up with, I've got 3 axes, 4 swords, 2 shields, 5 bows, all
3
this.
3 weeks of rations.
3 weeks of rations.
4 hunter skins.
That kind of thing. And that's why, a lot of times in campaigns, the DMs will make people buy pack mules, pack horses, sledges, followers, something to help them with the actual weight of all the things that they have to carry. And that's a little more realistic. Now, I know you do that when we talk about weight. You always look, what are you guys carrying now? Because if so, you're carrying that much, your movement speeds drop back from 30 to 20.
You're trying to run into combat?
Yeah.
Well, you're not going to move. Okay, now your movement's only 10 instead of 30.
Exactly.
And
even if you have something like endurance, which helps you, sleep in your armor and move faster in your armor, you're still limited by what you can carry weight-wise and what you can get away with.
And then you get into how much can a pack actually carry.
Yeah.
A backpack, even in our times, is still limited on a certain amount of items or space.
Sure.
And it's not like it's a backpack of holding.
I mean, there are bags of holding, but...
There are bags of holding.
But the thing is
that is handy haversack.
That too. that is one of those things where you've got to specify in your group that you've got something like that.
Yeah.
And they're actually kind of rare. And we've only had a couple of campaigns where we've had those sort of magical items.
You can even get so far as to where is your item in your pack. You know, you and putting it in where it is from order top to bottom, because if you put your potion of healing in the bottom of your pack, and I had a great friend, Chuck Trinmeyer, who was great about this. He's like, you know, where is that potion of healing in your pack? Because you got to set your pack down, and now you got to paw through your pack. Well, that takes time.
Yeah.
Oh, you know, I got to pull out this, I got to pull out this, I
Yeah.
got to pull out this.
Yeah, exactly.
Here it is, and by
There
that
it
time,
is.
3 rounds into the combat, and you're dead, or your party's dead, or...
That's why it's better to have a wand. Wand of healing.
It's just an example, you know. So where is it in your pack? And that's part of what you can get into Encumbrance. But I think that's taken it a little bit too far within the game. Now, you can do that and be a real stickler of a DM, but I am a stickler when it comes to how much are you actually carrying and how much can you move. You know, you're not going to be running into combat. You got that plate mail armor? Well, I'm sorry, but your movement's only 20 right now.
Yeah.
You're carrying 10,000 gold pieces and various other pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And let's not forget that your old armor that you had, your old +1 armor.
You always have that. You don't want to get rid of it.
And the extra weapons and the 40 arrows and the 2 bows, and you know, so it kind of gets to be a little bit too much. So I'm kind of a stickler on that.
And I'm glad you are, because you make us buy pack animals. And we have to have pack animals, pack mules, pack horses, whatever. And a lot of that comes from the fact that we have to carry food, because we can't always forage successfully.
Yeah.
So we have to carry food and water, because you can't always hunt. You can't always be successful at hunting. And if you don't have a cleric who can't create food or water, if you're just a group of adventurers, you've got to eat, you've got to drink, you've got to do something. You know, dwarves love their beer. Well, what? Is he carrying around his own beer wagon?
Yeah.
You know? I mean, what's he doing? I mean, he drinks a lot of beer. It's like, well, is he dragging like a giant keg with him? You know, does he set it down before he has to fight? What's going on here? Be realistic about
now,
that.
I remember in one of my campaigns, you had a character who had a wagon that had his mobile blacksmith shop.
He did.
You know?
Yeah.
It wasn't big and fancy. It was a small blacksmithing shop that you could set up, but he had a wagon.
Yeah, it was basically just kind of a bigger dray wagon with his anvil. He had a portable forge. He had some iron, some coal, his tools. You know, it was covered, kind of like a big covered wagon. And I think he had ox or mules or something.
I can't remember.
But that was part of our gameplay, where he traveled, and other people would travel with him. They would be in the wagon with him, riding. You know, and we had to travel very slowly because it was a freight wagon. It was heavy, big. And that was part of a gameplay, and I loved it because,
Big Lovely.
Big Lovely, my blacksmith. When he went places, you knew. Here he's coming. You can hear the wagon coming. You know, there's no stealth. He's not sneaking up on anybody. You know, he's coming to town. Here comes the blacksmith. You know, he's got a purpose. He's in town. He's going to, fix some horses. Fix some horseshoes. He's going to fix some broken ironworks. He wasn't a weaponsmith, but he could mend a sword here or there, maybe, kind of make it look halfway, or make you an axe, kind of a crude axe. But see, that's the thing, is his transport was guaranteed that he had his own wagon. He wasn't going to try to carry a portable forge on his back and walk around with an anvil under his arm. Blacksmith, here I come, that kind of stuff. Delaney made us keep it realistic, and it became a plot hook then. You know, what happened when we were all piled in his wagon and we got attacked by creatures? Well, then we could use the wagon as sort of a defensive perimeter where we could fight around the wagon or use it for cover. Made sense. Yeah.
And in the current campaign, one of their characters, the party ended up getting a huge amount of treasure.
Yeah.
From a horde, and it's like, okay, we're going to carry this. We're going to put it on the mule, and it's like, how much is the mule carrying?
Yeah,
you got food already on the mule. You're trying to carry this half a pound, half of a side of an elk that you've taken down, as food, and now you're trying to carry all this treasure, and they finally said, well, let's bury it.
We had to
and
bury
mark
it.
We'll have to come back and try and get it some other time.
We took just a handful of gold and silver out of it so we could carry it on personally to buy incidental things in villages.
If you needed to,
If you needed to, and the rest of it we buried. Because realistically, you can't carry that much. And I know everybody says, well, exchange it for gems. Well, that doesn't work everywhere. You can't go to an enormous cosmopolitan city and go to a gem dealer and sell your diamond and then walk out of there with 1,000 gold and strut around with a big giant sack of gold
That
under your
doesn't
arm.
fit into economics.
Yeah, you would crash the economy at some place if you tried to do that. You know, so you can't walk around with a bag of gems. It just is kind of realistic. If you know, you go to these villages, what are they going to do with a ruby?
So let's pretend that this is a bag of gems. Okay? And yeah, this is a lot more compactable, but not every merchant's going to be able to break. You know, you go in there with a 100 gold piece gem, and maybe the merchant doesn't have that much coin on him.
Right. What can you buy that's worth 100 gold? I want 10 cloaks, 40 shoes, a keg of beer, and I'm going to pay for it with a ruby. And he's like, he looks at the ruby, and he's like, okay, no, okay, it looks like it could be good. All right, well, I don't have a lot of, I just give you like 10 silver, you know, in exchange or whatever, something like that, because not everybody's got the kind of money that a precious gem, you know, would generate. So, you know, the thing about, you know, the economy of areas, when you're talking about a medieval economy, basically the people who have all the money are the king, you know, a few of the lords, and some rich merchants. Everybody else is on the barter system.
Yeah. Yeah,
You
which
know?
would be a whole nother episode that we're going to have to talk about.
We can talk about the economy of stuff like that. True.
But anyway, you know, but even 10,000 gold pieces of gems can end up being encumbering.
Well, sure. You know, it's like
if you had 10,000 gold pieces of gems, and each gem is only, or each gem is only worth 10 gold pieces. That's a lot of gems.
Even 100.
Or even 100.
I mean, it could be like a bunch,
gems.
like a big giant bag of rocks. You
Yeah.
know. We kind of bring this up a lot when it comes to encumbrance because people want to have like these fantastic suits of armor that weigh, you know, 100 pounds, and then they want to run around like they're not wearing anything.
like they're Olympic class high jumper and pole vaulter.
You know, even the strongest knights who wore armor were still encumbered to a certain extent with what they're wearing because it's heavy.
Well, a great example is Agincourt.
Yes. You know, when the knights fell off their horses, they couldn't get back on because it basically was so heavy they couldn't get off the ground. I have a chainmail shirt that's made out of steel, and I got to tell you,
It's actually aluminum.
No, it's not. It's steel. That's not aluminum. That's steel, and that thing is heavy. We don't have any aluminum chainmail. That is.
I tried it. It is rusting.
Yeah,
you get it on and you get off balance.
Man, you get it on and you feel like you're wearing a backpack that's weighing 30 pounds.
It actually distributes pretty well across the body, but like I said, if you get on the ground and it's hard to get back up.
Yeah.
You can get back up, but it's hard.
It's heavy.
Yeah.
Now think about that with leather armor, and I've worn it with leather armor. Carried a shield, had a helmet, had a weapon, had a spear. After about an hour of walking over, I have to say, rarely forgiving terrain, I've had it, you know, and that's encumbrance right there.
Yeah.
You're not walking 30 miles over rough terrain and then fighting a dragon after that. You're dead.
Yeah.
You know, you're dead on your feet. There's no way around it. So, try to be a little more realistic when it comes to encumbrance like that. Make it part of a plot hook.
Yeah.
Make it part of your characters. Make it part of your character's game that they have to deal with encumbrance.
Yeah.
At least that's
Absolutely.
That's how Delaney does it, and it always works pretty well in our game because we have to role play around it.
I'm a stickler for encumbrance in my games. I don't believe in a person having all these different weapons, because if you had all these weapons, where are they? How are you going to get to them? You know, you got a weapon here, you got 3 weapons here, and 2 weapons here, and a couple across your back, and you got your bow and everything else. Try and get to all that stuff. It's not going to be easy. You know, it's like this pile of weapons that I got sitting there.
Yeah. I mean, so right now, if you play computer games, okay, like Skyrim, Fallout, Starfield, whatever, you look in your weapons pack thing, and you do have an encumbrance level, but you're carrying 10 rifles, 2 pistols, a couple of knives. Well, where are you keeping those? Well, occasionally if you look, you'll see like you have one weapon slung across your back. okay, where's all the other stuff? You know, unless you're carrying an enormous arms locker on your back, that stuff's stuck somewhere. So I know they can't be really realistic because of the plot lines of the game. You want to have a lot of guns and weapons and stuff. And especially in Skyrim, it seems like you're carrying all this stuff. But keep in mind, you know, if you approach your RPG game from a sense of even remote realism without just, you know, strict fantasy, think of yourself and your players as humans. How can they manage all this stuff?
So, if you're going to have them on a belt, or stuck in a belt, so you're going to have all these belts on you, which is just going to cause you to get tangled up.
Yep.
Which is actually going to make it easier for the monster to hit you and harder for you to attack if you're carrying all these belts, because you're going to get tangled up, or somebody's going to be able to grab you and throw you to the ground easier.
Yep. Yep.
So
all right,
Encumbrance.
folks.
And that wasn't even everything that I had. There was a couple of things that I couldn't even grab.
Yeah.
You know, because I'm trying to pick it up and everything's falling down.
Yeah.
So anyway, Encumbrance. Yeah. And make sure you like, share, subscribe, spread the word, and let everyone know about Wizards of the Tower, because we really appreciate it when you comment and when we get new subscribers. You know, I tell Tom, it's like, hey, yeah, we got another subscriber, so we really appreciate it. We haven't gotten that many, 100 to us.
That's a lot.
That's a lot.
We really appreciate every one of you. Thank you so much. Yeah, we do.
So anyway, like, share, subscribe, spread the word, ring the bell, make a comment, we'll reply.
Yep.
And thanks for watching Wizards of the Tower.
Role play.
And may all your adventures be epic.
And keep on rolling.
Thanks, folks.